What do Falcons do? Rise up. Welcome to Rise Up Reactions, the show where we talk all things Falcons, NFL, Georgia sports, and in general, the sports news of the day. I'm your host, Dr. Lee Denning, the Golden Hard Doc, and guys, we are now 1 week away from where we will know what the Falcons have done in their first round of the draft. We are 1 week away from me doing a live stream through the draft. I'm really trying to hit 500 subscribers by the end of next season, so please go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you have not done so already. Today, I'm coming to you with a quick video. I just wanted to take a moment to really talk about my feelings on what the Falcons have done as a whole in free agency. It's very unlikely that any major moves are going to be happening for the Falcons between now and the draft, unless there's maybe a trade to move up somewhere higher in the draft, or potentially to move back. Now, the Falcons have addressed a large number of needs through the course of the last month or so here. We have one big need that we will have to evaluate throughout the course of the year. We don't know about quarterback yet. Desmond Ridder has now officially changed his number to number 9. And we don't know if he is truly the guy or not to start and lead us to the promised land. We do have Taylor Heineke as a backup just in case, who has proven to be a pretty solid option. Was honestly the best option for the Commies for the last 2 years on their roster. So I do think he's a solid quarterback to have in the quarterback room with Desmond Ridder to try and help build that up. But there are certain things that we need. So let's start out with the offense real quick. Quarterback, again, big question mark. But if Ridder does what he did in the last 2 games, which is play good, efficient football where you don't turn the ball over and you do have accuracy, he had almost 40 targets to Drake London in the last 4 games of the season. And I do believe Drake London is going to be our number 1 wide receiver option, easily, hands down. Just like I think Kyle Pitts coming back, it will be incredibly interesting to see if he and Ridder have a connection with one another. We did get Jonnu Smith, and we reworked his contract a little bit, so he's not going to be as much this year with a trade with the Patriots. Again, a guy that Arthur Smith is very well connected with and familiar with, and the guy who helped bring Jonnu Smith to prominence when he was a Tennessee Titan. So definitely a guy that I like there. We have 3 wide receivers. So we've got Carter L. Hodge coming back. He's kind of be more of a special teams guy. You have Mac Hollins coming in as our wide receiver 2. Big guy who's not necessarily fast, but he's going to serve as a solid X or wide receiver there. And then you also have Scotty Miller, who is just the definition of make the most of it when your number is called. He has been an amazing asset to Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when his number was called, but he just found himself further on that depth chart because of guys like Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and just a number of other players that they have on their team. But he is now with us, and there's a solid chance that he will start the season as our wide receiver 3, may end the season as our wide receiver 2, and it just really depends on what we do in the draft. As far as other moves we made, we have 3 offensive line moves that I think are worth talking about, which I've already mentioned a little bit. We did re-sign Chris Lindstrom to make him the highest paid guard of all time. Certainly worthwhile, and we'll keep him on our team for another 5 years. We did get Caleb McGarry on a 3-year deal for significantly cheaper. I like the deal for what Caleb showed last year. However, had he had a mediocre or bad year, it would have been bye-bye, and I would have rather us gone for guys like Orlando Brown or something like that. And I'm still not convinced that we won't go with Peter Skoronski from Northwestern at that number 8 overall slot because of the things we have already done in the draft. Now, I have a feeling that I know what we want to do if a player is still available at 8. We're going to talk about that because that's a defensive conversation. The only logistic guy that I could see us taking in the first round at 8 is Peter Skoronski. If we traded back with somebody, maybe to around somewhere between 12 to 18, I think Bijan Robinson would be our guy because we really didn't do anything to address the running back room. We still have lead rusher Tyler Algier, who is coming off of a rookie record-setting year for the Falcons, and he would have blown that out of the water, not just barely made it past if he had been given the starting role from the get-go. You do have Cordell Patterson, who's coming back as well. Not my favorite guy. I would love to see him move back to wide receiver, but he's certainly in the mix there. You have Caleb Huntley as well, and I feel like we have somebody else that I'm just not thinking of, but either way, Overall, we have a solid running back room, but there is room for one more guy. And I don't know. It needs to be a complementary piece. We don't need another big bruising back. We need somebody who's a little bit more versatile, somebody who's got pass blocking ability, but who can also catch the ball out of the backfield really well, unless Tyler Algier has magically developed that over the offseason. But I do look forward to seeing our run heavy offense this year with him leading the way. But the other guy we got is Jermaine Ifedi, who could arguably be a starter on any other roster that didn't have somebody like Jake Matthews and Caleb McGarry already starting for him. He could easily be a starter in this league. He has played in multiple positions and could be a good rotational component. He will play swing tackle very well for us. So a guy that I do like as signing. But that's our big offensive moves. I think from an offensive standpoint, we are still lacking in the wide receiver room, and I do look for us to spend a day 2 draft pick on a wide receiver. Everything I keep hearing about this draft is there are no true wide receiver ones in this draft, save maybe one of the guys that's going to be taken top 15 overall. I think Jackson Njigba Smith is the one that is going around as maybe the big guy. A lot of people love Jonathan Mingo. He's a guy that when mocked, he is available in the 3rd and sometimes in the 4th. So I think if we're going to want him, though, we're going to have to pull the trigger probably in the 2nd or 3rd round on him. But he could be a good complementary piece that could be there for Desmond Ridder for the next few years to try and build and develop with. And certainly a guy who has been an amazing Ole Miss Rebel player for him. I do think he is a guy that has a lot of upside. You have the Tennessee receiver Dobbins, who would make sense in that kind of day 2 pick range. So there's a few guys that I think make a lot of sense there. And again, since we've addressed some of our needs in free agency, I am more apt to look offense in the 2nd day of the draft. Now, let's talk about our defense. What have we done here? The biggest moves being on the interior defensive line. We have gotten David Onyemata, who is probably our first big signing. We have who else? Calais Campbell on a 1-year deal, 38 years old, but been a monster everywhere he's played for the last decade. You also, I can't remember who else we signed. There was another guy that I remember being a depth piece, but it's not listed on the site that I've got here. But I do love what we have done. We have basically given Taquan Graham and Grady Jarrett additional weapons and created more of a rotational component. Oh, I know who it is. Eddie Goldman. He is coming out of retirement to come back, even though he didn't play last year. The Falcons still had the rights to him. He's coming back for at least 1 year here. And again, older guy, but has been solid when he was a Chicago Bear. So I do like what we have done. We are trying to create a defensive interior where you have to double team one, if not 2 of those defensive interior guys, where it's only been Grady Jarrett before, and that's why he was less effective last year. Now you're going to have to get Grady Jarrett, and you're going to have to get David Onyemata, or you're going to have to get David Onyemata and Calais Campbell, or some mix of that group, which is going to free up our edge rushers, which we did re-sign Lorenzo Carter, still relatively young guy, 2-year deal, fairly team-friendly. He is a guy that I think will have more success this year. I would be surprised if he doesn't have at least 7 sacks this year with what we have done on the defensive interior. I think he had 5 last year. I would be genuinely shocked if he didn't have at least 7. I think Arnold Ebiketie will be used a lot more, and if we're not using Arnold Ebiketie on the other side at edge, we will probably swing one of these defensive interiors into that position because they're still fast, big guys. Now, as far as the draft goes, ideally, Tyree Wilson will be available at number 8 overall, and we will take him to fill out our edge rushing need, which we have needed for years. We didn't address it in free agency. We addressed the interior, but we didn't address that. I don't think we take Jalen Carter if he's available. I actually think Jalen Carter will go ahead of us anyway, but I do love the pick for Tyree Wilson if the Raiders take a quarterback. If the Raiders don't take a quarterback, I don't know that we get this. Actually, 2 things have to happen. 4 quarterbacks need to go in the first round. There's a lot of talk that Houston is, for whatever reason, not thinking about taking a quarterback number 2 overall. They're going to wait until they get to their 12th pick and then take a quarterback, whatever's left out of the top 4, because not a lot of teams are expected to take quarterback in the top 12. But we do expect all 4 of the big quarterbacks to be gone by the time we get to pick 12. I would ideally like to see them gone by the time we get to pick 7, because again, that means that defensive talent is at a premium and will be available. I think the Lions will take a corner. I think we no longer need a corner because of what I'm going to talk about next. We have really done a lot to beef up our secondary. What have we done? We have signed Jesse Bates, possibly the best safety in all of football right now, to a long-term deal, 4 years. and fairly team friendly. It's only the fourth highest safety of all time, which I think is a pretty solid steal for somebody that is playing lights out right now. He should shore up that safety position, provide additional support to Jalen Hawkins, as well as Richie Grant. They should now become rotational components, and he should be able to play both a single high safety as well as a two safety position very, very well. We still have A.J. Terrell at corner, who is a lock to be there for quite some time. I am still waiting. I don't believe we've exercised his fifth-year option yet. I'm just waiting because I can't see a scenario where we don't do that. And then we also continue to have the likes of Casey Hayward, who is a little bit older, but still, if he comes back and he's healthy, solid player. And we got Jeff Okudah in a trade with the Lions for a fifth-round pick that probably wasn't going to turn out to anything anyway. It is incredibly hard to hit and find quality talent beyond the fourth round of the draft. You just look back, I remember GPS just did a really quick show where they went through every team's best draft in the last 20 years, and just listening to the players, there were very, very few fourth-plus round hits on those lists. Most of the players that really made impacts were first, second, and third rounders. And then the drafts that really put people over the edge were the ones where they found a corner or a safety in the fifth round. It was not really a lot of other depth, maybe some guards or centers or stuff like that might have turned out to be rotational components on offensive lines. But again, a pick that I don't think is really that meaningful for us, that we turned into a guy who has been injured for 2 years of his career and a little underwhelming on another third overall former pick. He could easily end up being a solid component for us. Another guy that we have to make a decision on a fifth-year option for, or if we're just going to do a make-or-break, prove-it year. Don't know what we should actually do there. We've also signed Mike Hughes to a one-year deal to beef up that the corners, and then also Cornell Armstrong, who really didn't look good this last year, but he's probably going to be playing a lot of special teams. I love what we've done. We also, one big one that we've got two more guys. We got Bud Dupree as an edge rusher, which is fairly recent. Love that pickup. I think he could have a solid year with the Falcons. It is just a one-year deal, $5 million, and it kind of rounded out what we're doing from a free agent standpoint. We don't have much money left before we have to sign rookies. And then we were also able to sign Caden Ellis, who is a true boom or bust player. We got him on a 3-year deal from the Saints. I've heard talk that he is the best kept linebacking secret in the NFL, and I'm hoping that with his 7 sacks last year in 11 games after he was forced to step off of special teams and come into the linebacker position for the Saints was not a fluke, and it's just a true showing of what he can be. So, guys, that's what I think. I think the Falcons have been the biggest spenders and some of the biggest move makers, building a monster of a defense and beefing up parts of the offense to help the current players that we have succeed. I do look for us again. Day 2 will probably be an offense day for us. It wouldn't surprise me if we take a left guard, which we still could use, and a wide receiver on day 2. I don't think we make either of those moves on day 1. If we trade back, Bijan Robinson kind of makes sense in that middle of the first round. I think we're taking a gamble doing that. If Tyree Wilson is available, he is the guy that we need to be going for. That's just my opinion. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, please hit the subscribe button. It'll really help me reach more people and help the channel grow. Join me on Thursday next week, just before the draft. I'll be starting. It's probably going to be a little rough. I've never done a live stream, but I am looking forward to starting that and having you guys supporting me with it. Really need you guys to join me so that I actually have stuff to talk about and can look at the comments and kind of respond to that. Again, trying to hit 500 subscribers by the end of next season. The sooner I do it, the sooner I can change that goal to 1,000. But thank you guys so much for watching. I can't wait for us to get to the draft. It is starting to really get cooking for the NFL season here. The season schedule will come out 2 weeks after the NFL draft. But guys, thank you so much for watching. And as always, rise up.